Hare Krishna. So now we are starting our study session of Gopāla Campū, chapter 19, Surrender of Indra and Krishna as Lord of the Cows. In the dawn, lit by the effulgence of the assembly of the two young reciters, Madhukanta began speaking. On the auspicious first lunar day, Govardhana manifested his powers. From the third lunar day to the 9th day, Krishna attractively lifted Govardhana. On the 10th lunar day, made attractive by the previous situation, the most learned residents, after dining at his invitation and chewing betel to purify the mouth, began to discuss the incident at the assembly of Nanda. From seeing him lift Govardhana, they began to recount all the impossible events, starting from the killing of Putana without omitting any. They then said, lifting the mountain, he endured a heavy load, but he did not tremble at all. The rain fell outside, but not within the mountain. His great power is most astonishing and beyond normal conduct. But though this is true, we and others are astonished by his being the natural object of the greatest affection. That affection, which is seen in people like us, is most outstanding by its uniqueness. Everyone naturally has attraction for their sons, but we cannot give up attraction to your son. Everyone has attraction for Krishna. O Nanda, remembering all this, we cannot speak at all or use reasoning. Listening attentively, Nanda felt bliss. Then, with great affection and the permission of all present, he repeated the words of Garga and out of pure affection, destroyed the doubt that had arisen about Krishna's glorious activities. This is also mentioned in Bhagavatam. O coward men, just hear my words and let all your doubts concerning my son be gone. Some time ago, Garga Muni spoke to me as follows about this boy, SB 10:26:15. From the time Garga instructed us and left, I know that Krishna performs remarkable activities because of the Shakti of Narayana within him. Hearing Nanda's words, they became satisfied. When all the people made Nanda joyful by hearing about his son, who gave joy to all people, suddenly Krishna praised and overjoyed by his leading group of friends, entered with Balarama. The assembly surrounded him like the halo around the moon. They tasted his beauty like chakora birds. They became joyful in his presence like lotuses. Their limbs became liquid like moonstones. They swelled with joy like the ocean. When this happened, and all were in this situation, after a few moments from their houses where Lakshmi resided, they brought white, yellow, and blue cloth, as well as ornaments for Krishna, Balarama, and Nanda to wear. Acted in the assembly, the women in the inner chambers decorated Rohini and Yashoda. Thus there was a festival outside and inside. Now Indra in Swarga should be described. Departing from Braja, thinking of his miserable condition, devoid of his powers, he went to his house, but desired his own destruction. He did not desire his wife and did not go to the assembly of Devatas. Hearing what had happened, Brihaspati came and scolded him in private, since he was the priest of the Devatas. He scolded him as follows. Indra, because you do not worship Vishnu, you will not flourish, just as trees cannot grow without the moon. It's not surprising that intoxication with pride has overcome a person like you, since you are the leader of the Devatas and master of intoxication. But how did you, who drank nectar, become like a dead person? You have become insane, giving up life by not eating. The wise say, He who gives fear to the gentle and touches dead bodies should not be touched, like a person who, in spite of bathing, remains untouchable. Hero, this has happened because of your indiscretion. If a person rejects the Antaryami, who is his support, and rejects Paramatma, who is his protection, he is called insane. Indra said, without thinking, I did this act. Now please instruct me something suitable. Brihaspati said, when such irregularity occurs, only Brahma can rectify the situation. Your only solution is to follow his advice. When such irregularity occurs, only Brahma can rectify the situation. Your only solution is to follow his advice. Full of grief, Indra went respectfully to Brahma and without hesitation revealed his offense. Full of grief, Indra went respectfully to Brahma and without hesitation revealed his offense. Brahma said, though you are the leader of the Devatas, you are ignorant. Thus you have committed a great offense which could only be accomplished with great effort. Just on hearing you have done such a thing, the wise will block their ears. Having the misfortune of desiring to create the universe, I must instruct you. Desiring to know the Lord's power, you showed audacity. Considering this an intolerably poisonous sin, I am not able to cleanse you of your grave offense. However, Gautama and others have said, Gavam kanduyanam kuryad go grasam go pradakshinam nityam goshu prasannasu gopalopi prasidati. One should tickle the cows, feed them and circumambulate them. If you always please the cows, Krishna will be pleased. Eager to obtain forgiveness of Krishna, who has great affection for cows, you must serve the mother of cows, Surabhi. If you do not, she will side with the demons. Afraid of the demons, Indra went to Surabhi's planet and pleased Surabhi repeatedly. Though she was disturbed when he explained his offense, he returned to Brahma with Surabhi. Brahma said, "O Surabhi, go to Krishna in order to remove Indra's fear. Remove the bad meaning of the name of Indra, who's called having bad conduct in the assembly of the learned. Make Goloka world with your wealth of cows, which makes Vaikunta seem limited. Krishna will attain that position of king of Goloka if you bathe him and serve him." On the 11th lunar day, Surabhi came to Vrindavana on earth with Indra and waited for an opportunity. From far off, Surabhi spoke to Indra. This is not a cloud, but Govardhana. This is not part of Govardhana, but Krishna. This is not lightning, but is moving cloth. This is not the rumbling of clouds, but is joking. Look, Garuda is flying high above us, desiring the shelter of the cloud filled with lightning, who is sitting in the shade of Govardhana. Look, Garuda is flying high above us, desiring the shelter of the cloud filled with lightning, who is sitting in the shade of Govardhana. He is sitting on a white cloth spread on the gems of Govardhana. His left hand is placed on his lotus foot, resting on his left thigh. And his left hand is placed on his lotus foot, resting on his right thigh, and his right hand holds the most beautiful flute. With a seams, he showers mercy. He is willing to meet us, and he has sent his friends away on errands. It is certain that Balarama has not come today. Go in front of him with grieving heart when no one is there. Offer respects and please him. The person of superior power onto whom the offense has been committed and who can remove the offense rarely sees the miserable offender. The person of superior power onto whom the offense has been committed and who can remove the offense rarely sees the miserable offender. If one offers respects to the person offended in a private place, one's miserable state will invoke the mercy of even an ordinary person. What to speak of an elevated person? One's miserable state will invoke the mercy of even an ordinary person. What to speak of an elevated person? I will approach later to make some special request. I will approach later to make some special request. Following Surabhi's instructions, Indra approached Krishna in private and fell at his feet. Following Surabhi's instructions, Indra approached Krishna in private and fell at his feet. Following Surabhi's instructions, Indra approached Krishna in private and fell at his feet. When Indra offered respects, Krishna's toenails shone brilliantly among Indra's crown jewels. When Indra's lotus eyes began to flow with tears like honey, Krishna's two nails became like moons. When he wept, Krishna, being a little taken aback, raised him up with his hand affectionately and spoke to him, "O Lord, do not do such unsuitable acts. You are the only shelter of all words of the wise." When he placed his hands on Indra's head, shamed Indra remained silent as if struck by a thunderbolt. Who will not become the devotee of that person who is strong and affectionate and can bind another's body by his power and his mind by his words? Krishna's power and affection influenced Indra. Acting like the moon on others, Krishna acted like the sun on Indra. Indra acted like the sun on others, but acted like a firefly in front of Krishna. When Indra was silent, Krishna remained mute. When Indra began praising him, Krishna became eloquent. When Indra was silent, Krishna remained mute. When Indra began praising him, Krishna became eloquent. No one can describe how Indra spoke when praising Krishna. "O Nanda, controlling himself, Krishna is becoming shy in front of you." No one can describe how Indra spoke when praising Krishna. No one can describe how Indra spoke when praising Krishna. "O Nanda, controlling himself, Krishna is becoming shy in front of you." Not noticing his disregard, Indra then concluded, "Mayedam Bhagavan Goshtan Nasha Yasara Vayubhi Cheshtitam Vihate Yagne Manina Tivra Manyuna." My dear Lord, when my sacrifice was disrupted, I became fiercely angry because of false pride. Thus, I tried to destroy your covered community with severe rain and wind. SB 10:27-12. Smiling, Krishna spoke, "My dear Indra, it was out of mercy that I stopped the sacrifice meant for you." Smiling, Krishna spoke, "My dear Indra, it was out of mercy stop the sacrifice meant for you. Remembering me, you should not surpass the best devotees like my father." If the Devatas become proud of their opulence, the Brahmanas will become proud of eating fish. "O Indra, I will uproot your enemies. Why do you fear me? Please act properly." Seeing from a distance that Indra had lost his fear, Surabhi moved and called the other cows. Knowing what to do, with eager eyes, she approached Krishna. When Krishna saw Surabhi offering respects as a cow, he smiled. Folding his hands in reverence, he spoke, "O mother, why have you come?" Though desiring to give all blessings, she should not do so, she said. She could not do so. She said, "My species has become fortunate. They have come to earth to do service to you. I'm not fortunate since I cannot see you. However, you are the killer of demons and the protector of all planets. I also dwell in these planets. You are naturally my master. I pray as follows." The Ghost Sukta says that the cows are the abode of the Devatas on all festivals. Accept the position of Indra for the cows and be worshipped by Brahma and the Devatas. Protecting the devatas up to Brahma is a small show of your power. Goloka has such power that it overshadows Vaikunta. The sun illuminates a house because it illuminates the universe. Since you protect everyone, you also protect a small portion of it. This is not only my idea, but the opinion of Brahma, so that foolish Indra will be purified. We cows are the object of your mercy. Indra has taken shelter of us as a medium of your mercy. As a thirsty man seeks a well to get its water, Indra seeks us to receive your mercy. Oh Lord, please look. Seeing your lotus feet, Indra is bathing them with tears from his 1,000 eyes. When Krishna, with a modest expression in his eyes, gave permission, Surabhi, along with Narada, Aditi, Indra, Varuna, and the Gandharvas, quickly prepared to worship him by bathing him in order to get his mercy. When Krishna, with a modest expression in his eyes, gave permission, Surabhi, along with Narada, Aditi, Indra, Varuna, and the Gandharvas, quickly prepared to worship him by bathing him in order to get his mercy. Surabhi said, as family, at this place, all the sacred places such as Yamuna have become successful by serving the feet of you, your friends, and your relatives. The cows have become fortunate because you have drunk their milk. I request permission to use some of this milk and some water from the Ganga, the sacred river of heaven, so that milk from my udder does not become useless. I will do as you say. I will do as you say. Smiling Krishna said, do as you please. With a movement of Indra's brow, Airavata carefully raised his trunk upwards and quickly brought a jewel pot full of water from Ganga in the heavens. Surabhi filled up Indra Sarovara near the mountain with milk. Indra, with strong bhakti in his heart, along with his relatives, and the protectors of the directions, bathed Krishna while the Gandharvas danced and sang. Bathed Krishna while the Gandharvas danced and sang. The sages uttered mantras, and Brahma and Shiva shouted victory in bliss. By this, they all bathed in the nectar of happiness. Aditi performed mother's duties. Parvati performed a sister's duties. Garuda performed servants' duties, and they all attained bliss. When the devatas bathed him, Krishna's beauty spread in all directions. The fragrance of his limbs, in contact with the perfumed substances, traveled throughout the universe. Waves of auspicious sound entered the ears of the elephants of the directions. Though all living beings became happy because of the spread of bliss, Kamsa was surrounded by lizard-like leaders shaking their heads. Kamsa was surrounded by lizard-like leaders shaking their heads. When Krishna had protected everyone in all directions, the devatas then spoke. As Krishna protects all the people everywhere, his abode Goloka, the shelter of hundreds of trillions of Lakshmis, is most worthy of praise among all planets in the spiritual world. As you reside there with the name Govinda, you should protect this world using that name. At that moment, a voice in the sky said, Govinda, and flowers fell. What can be as astonishing as this? When Krishna had protected everyone in all directions, the Devatas then spoke. As Krishna protects all the people everywhere, his abode Goloka, the shelter of hundreds of trillions of Lakshmis, is most worthy of praise among all planets in the spiritual world. As you reside there with the name Govinda, you should protect this world using that name. At that moment, a voice in the sky said, Govinda, and flowers fell. What can be as astonishing as this? Indra presented him an umbrella. The sun god gave him attractive ornaments. Brahma gave him a blue lotus. Shiva gave him a flute he had made, and other devatas gave various gifts. Which became most remarkable after being given to him. As the gifts became objects of worship after being used to worship the devatas of his limbs. At that time, a throne under an attractive umbrella appeared. Two chamaras began fanning him. He wore shining cloth. Seeing him, his friends with unblinking eyes remained motionless like pictures for a few moments. Blissful from being bathed in the glance of lotus-eyed Govinda, the devatas became even more blissful than before. Placing their gifts such as the umbrella on the trees, they repeatedly offered respects to his feet for their own benefit. With tears in their eyes, admitting their offense, the devatas who had been scolded and forgiven took permission and departed. Krishna's friends, full of joy, gradually approached him. Coming forward, they saw him, worshipped him, spoke to him, embraced him, and smelled him. Coming forward, they saw him, worshipped him, spoke to him, embraced him, and smelled him. Seeing the umbrella and other items, they inquired repeatedly. He hid the incident from them, and thus they were not aware of it. At every moment, laughter indicating their joy increased. He decorated them with the ornaments given by the devatas, and they served him with the gold-handled chamara and other gifts. He decorated them with the ornaments given by the devatas, and they served him with the gold-handled chamara and other gifts. He decorated them with the ornaments given by the devatas, and they served him with the gold-handled chamaras and other gifts. Krishna and his friends appeared like kings. Seeing Krishna served by boys with similar qualities, form, and nature, the devatas considered that the boys had gained powers given by Krishna as a result of their accumulated knowledge. Seeing Krishna served by similar qualities, form, and nature, the devatas considered that the boys had gained powers given by Krishna as a result of their accumulated knowledge. They concluded that those powers bestowed by him were simply various results. They concluded that those powers bestowed by him were simply various results gained by their prema. Nothing else could give those results. In this way, when the devatas had begun to depart, their departure was interrupted when they became stunned. In this way, when the devatas had begun to depart, their departure was interrupted when they became stunned. In this way, when the devatas had begun to depart, their departure was interrupted when they became stunned. When Shiva and others saw Krishna's powers, they became completely astonished. When the devatas worshipped Krishna, all people became happy. The cows showered the earth with milk. The rivers flowed with various flavors. The trees flowed with honey. The mountains held jewels on their peaks, and inimical animals became friends. When a great person is worshipped, even persons who do not worship become happy. If the heart simply trembles on thinking of Indra's cruel actions, how can the heart describe that nature in words? If the heart simply melts on thinking of the mercy shown by Krishna, how can the heart reveal that mercy in words? When the sun embraced Sunset Mountain, Krishna realized it was getting late. When the sun embraced Sunset Mountain, Krishna realized it was getting late. Quickly he gathered the cows and returned to Raja with his friends. Quickly he gathered the cows and returned to Raja with his friends. Sprinkled with unequal flowers by the devatas who respected him, he went with others who were walking. Serving Krishna by holding umbrella and chamara, his friends sang while devatas showered flowers. Serving Krishna by holding umbrella and chamara, his friends sang while devatas showered flowers. With beauty endowed with glory, he entered his house. With beauty endowed with glory, he entered his house. Hearing about and seeing his limbs adorned with divine ornaments, everyone became full of sattvika bhavas. Hearing the news, Balarama with joyful heart came some distance and seeing his younger brother, embraced him in happiness and smelled his head. Sitting with him for some time, he spoke with him. Taking permission from Krishna, Balarama took off all the divine ornaments brought from the heavens. Taking permission from Krishna, Balarama took off all the divine ornaments brought from the heavens. Taking permission from Krishna, Balarama took off all the divine ornaments brought from the heaven. Not wanting the elders to see him in that opulent condition, he then brought Krishna to Vraja. He then brought Krishna to Vraja. Letting the milkmen milk the cows, Nanda on that day put Krishna in front with his friends and Balarama and sat there blissfully with his friends in order to understand about the incident. When Sridhama and other truthful friends arrived, they took permission from Krishna and began worshipping Nanda and the assembly with the umbrella and chamara, satisfying them all. Then clearly Nanda said, please tell us what happened. Sridhama said, to gather far away for a long time. Thus we were not able to see anything directly, but all these things naturally announce that they are divine. Krishna was acting shy, but everybody understood and said, that's correct, Sridhama, that is the truth. All the elder cowards then became motionless like pictures for a moment with unblinking eyes. Then Madhumangala said in a loud voice, oh Nanda, please listen. First a cow began speaking. Then Madhumangala said in a loud voice, oh Nanda, please listen. First a cow began speaking. Then someone with 1,000 eyes offered respects. A white elephant took water from heaven and sprinkled it. Someone with 4 heads and 5 heads began reciting praises. Many people bathed your son with great festivity. Nanda and the citizens thought they should perform some auspicious acts, but remained immobile. A voice then spoke from the sky. O Nanda, just as we gathered and installed your son as Govinda, you should gather together, ornament your son and install him as the prince. Filled with joy and pride by those sweet words, the elders began considering among themselves. With unprecedented auspicious music, having Brahmanas chant auspicious blessing and giving gifts to all, they produced a festival and respected Krishna as the king of the town. The women headed by Yashoda arrived and holding jewel lamps in their hands, performed auspicious rites, offering aratrika, respects and heaps of gems. They carefully led him into the house as if he were affection personified. They carefully led him into the house as if he were affection personified. O Nanda, you have given birth to a son who brings joy to my mouth by reciting his glories, and who has brought happiness to the earth, the cows, and the heavens by taking the post of Lord of the cows. O Nanda, you have given birth to a son who brings joy to my mouth by reciting his glories, and who has brought happiness to the earth, the cows, and the heavens by taking the post of Lord of the cows. The universe has become joyful with Krishna's coronation. The demons have become fortunate and blind. The demons have become unfortunate and blind. As previously, the topic ended at night in the assembly of the Sakhis. Madhukanta then said, as special medicine has a nourishing effect, whether taken in great or small amounts, so food taken in amounts has a nourishing effect. Thus, though the description is brief, take it as if it were extensive. At that festival, crowds of young women, such as Radha, came along with the married women. At that festival, crowds of young women, such as Radha, came along. At that festival, crowds of young women, such as Radha, came along with the married women. Came along with the married women and their children. When they came near, their eyes, though covered by cloth, became filled with longing. In their minds, the festivity was equivalent to a marriage. Is there any coward girl fortunate enough to marry Krishna? The Creator, who gives qualification to all others, does not make Krishna visible to us. Let's curse the Creator. Let that be, but it is most unjust. We have been born in good families. We have great beauty and the best qualities. Our life has risen to our throats because of such intense love. Lifeless flute does not have such favorable qualities, but has attained its association, whereas we have not. That lowly flute gains happiness by sucking Krishna's mouth. Having a desire to be on his chest, you embrace his throat. Your diameter, having a desire to be on his chest, you embrace his throat. Your diameter is that of a small piece of rope. But Krishna, you and others who see you have no reservations at all about this. You're most fortunate. In their minds, the women spoke as follows. Some women managed to see Krishna fully by good fortune. Some have seen only half of him. Others have seen 1/3 of him. Some have not seen him at all. All act similarly, for what they imagine in their minds about him brings only sorrow. That night, Krishna lay down on the roof terrace, but the arrows of the women's glances in the afternoon. That night, Krishna lay down on the roof terrace. But the arrows of the women's glances in the afternoon pierced his heart. In pain, he lay awake till midnight, and in order to reveal his suffering to Radha and others, he began playing on the flute given by Shiva. In pain, he lay awake till midnight, and in order to reveal his suffering to Radha and others, he began playing on the flute given by Shiva. His playing the Kedara Raga produced a field Kedara in the night in which the gopis sowed the seeds of desire and made it sprout. The people of Mathura used the word tu to mean tvam, you. The sound tu emerged from the flute at every moment. The people of Mathura used the word tu to mean tvam, you. The sound tu emerged from the flute at every moment. The sound tu emerged from the flute at every moment. When Krishna made the sound to emerge from the flute at every moment, when Krishna made every gopi simultaneously hear that word through his flute at night, they all immediately fainted. The gopis acknowledged the attraction which arose from the song of the flute, played secondly for them, but rather the main object of his song became unconscious at that time, making a short period seem like a kalpa. The reciter then gradually slackened his pace to finish the story. "O Radha, here's your lover, whom you have attained after much hardship. He cannot at all be happy without you." When the story had been told in brief, the women remained silent for several muhurtas, 1 hour and 36 minutes, which passed like a few seconds. Then they returned to their houses. One hour and 36 minutes, muhurta. Chapter 20, astonishment at seeing Varuna's planet and seeing Goloka. In the morning recital, Snigdhakanta began speaking. Ekadashi, the 11th lunar day, was mentioned. Nanda joyfully observed this vow, which fulfill all desires every fortnight with dedication. Knowing that only a small portion of the Dwadashi remained for breaking the fast, he entered the Yamuna to bathe before the Dwadashi ended, according to a specific rule. Having entered the water, he fearlessly bathed. He began to meditate on Narayana, praised in the Vedas. From his birth, he had full faith in Narayana because he attained Krishna as his son. By that worship, he was even more inclined to worship him. Absorbed in meditation, he entered Samadhi. At that time, the servants of Varuna, who were roaming everywhere, suddenly approached and took Nanda to the abode of their master. Absorbed in meditation, he entered Samadhi. At that time, the servants of Varuna, who were roaming everywhere, suddenly approached and took Nanda to the abode of their master. At that time, the servants of Varuna, who were roaming, approached and took Nanda to the abode of their master. Who were roaming everywhere, suddenly approached and took Nanda to the abode of their master. Varuna had produced this splendid abode by his power to obstruct water. It was situated at the bottom of a pool in the Yamuna, within a cavern in the earth. Wise persons could never imagine that the father of Krishna could be brought there. Nanda always thought that by his good fortune, Krishna had been born as his son. We see Krishna's excellence, which bestows the bliss of prema, bringing greater and greater respect. By the influence of Yoga Maya, the assistant in his pastimes, situations like the arrival of Putana had arisen to make him think in this way. When the servants brought Nanda, dressed in clothing suitable for vows, in front of Varuna, Varuna recognized him by his tulasi and lotus garland and understood that he had been meditating on Narayana. Extremely frightened, he respectfully put him on an excellent celestial cloth. Understanding that Krishna would not tolerate Nanda being taken away and would come there, Varuna waited at the entrance of his abode in order to see him approaching from afar. What happened in Braja should be described. When Nanda, the protector of Krishna, disappeared from the view of the people whose wealth was dependent on him, they ran in all directions with fear and dove in the water. But not finding him, they returned to the shore. Arriving at the shore, they returned to Vraja while waiting in grief and saw Krishna. Balarama, while wailing in grief, and saw Krishna, Balarama and others who lamented in front of them. On hearing that most lamentable news, Krishna and Balarama's friends sprang into action. They passed all others and moving quickly on the earth with zeal, arrived at the place on the river. Krishna embraced his brother and with tears in his eyes spoke to him. Oh, brother, keep mother free of lamentation. Oh, brother, keep mother free and protect the others. Protect them as long as I cannot make them. As long as I cannot make them happy by bringing father back. When mother comes here, I will not have completed bringing father here. Protect them as long as I cannot make them happy by bringing father back. When mother comes here, I will not have completed bringing father here. Speaking in this way, he went to bring back Nanda. Though a lion expands his body on destroying his enemy, Krishna put the lion to shame. Gathering up his lower cloth, he disappeared in the Yamuna into a deep hole. Krishna put the lion to shame. Gathering up his lower cloth, he disappeared in the Yamuna into a deep hole. Into a deep hole. The moment Yashoda and the others arrived and saw Balarama alone, they looked for Krishna and asked, "Where is your younger brother gone?" Seeing that Yashoda was full of grief, he spoke, "Oh mother, do not be grieved. He will now bring back Nanda and make everyone happy." He said to Rohini, why are you beating me? Please trust me and help keep Yashoda alive. Since as in the case of the Kalia incident, the elders, considering that Balarama's words would cause her recovery, made her relax. However, the people began to consider, is this a dream or are we awake? Have we fainted or are we insane? They lost their intelligence completely. With agitated hearts, all they said aloud, however, was, "Oh Yashoda, oh Krishna, where are you? Oh Krishna, where are you?" While 4 women held up Yashoda, her heart began to burn. They could understand she was alive because she still breathed, but all she said was, "Aha." Krishna, dear to the gopis, entered the hole within the water and approached the abode of Varuna. Please understand the condition of Krishna in that situation. When Nanda arrived at Varuna's abode, Varuna recognized him and quickly went to meet him. Though Krishna's body was black, it appeared red out of anger. Though his eyes destroyed darkness because of their intense gaze, they were difficult to behold. His quality of softness became ferocious because of anger. His voice was like the rumbling of thunder in a cloud at the time of final devastation. This astonished all people. His voice was like the rumbling of thunder in a cloud at the time of final devastation. This astonished all people. Going to Varuna's abode, similar to a hole, Krishna, the maintainer of prosperity in Nanda's dynasty, displayed boldness towards Varuna. Going to Varuna's abode, similar to a hole, Krishna, the maintainer of prosperity in Nanda's dynasty, displayed boldness towards Varuna, thinking, where is that Varuna? When Krishna had increased his powers with a desire to attack him, Varuna, with his cloth covering his throat, touched his forehead to the earth. In great fear, the protector of the water stood at some distance with folded hands and offered respects to the ground. Seeing Varuna's pride crushed, his followers also offered respects on the ground. Lotus-eyed Krishna, dear to all, then desired to show mercy to Varuna and inquired from him, where is my worshipable father, the performer of the highest dharma? Regaining his composure, Varuna spoke sweetly, O highest Lord, a person who resides where you stay and resides nowhere else attains the highest powers and becomes the foremost. I am one among your many servants. How can I follow your order? How can I follow your order? Having given up his anger, Krishna spoke with a peaceful heart. Punishing these insignificant fellows will simply destroy the prowess of the punisher. Punishing these insignificant fellows will simply destroy the prowess of the punisher. Quickly show me the lotus feet of my father. Quickly show me the lotus feet of my father. O destroyer of suffering for the fallen souls, I will do as you say. O destroyer of suffering for the fallen souls, I will do as you say. O destroyer of suffering for the fallen souls, I will do as you say. The Lord of the water covered the path to where Nanda was. The Lord of the water covered the path where Nanda was with the best cloth for Krishna's feet. The Lord of the water covered the path to where Nanda was. The Lord of the water covered the path to where Nanda was. With the best feet, he brought Krishna, the chief among the best of the cowards, to that place and said, O Govinda, affectionate to your father, please take your father. SB 10:28:8. Your father is the object of my worship. I understand who he is. How can I treat him badly? How can he be defeated by any other person? How can he be defeated by any other person? Krishna freed Varuna from fear of being bound up by exerting his influence. Not seeing Krishna with his eyes, but sensing him by his fragrance, Nanda regained consciousness to the astonishment of the assembled persons. The meditation on Narayana, which began with his bath in the Yamuna, was now broken. Opening his eyes, he saw Krishna. Immediately, his eyes filled with tears. He thought he was still dreaming because of his flow of tears. He thought he was still dreaming because of his flow of tears. Krishna touched his feet, raised him up and embraced him. Oh, Father, I've come. In this way, he brought him to his senses. Though they both were intensely emotional, fearing that they would be the joke of all, fearing that they would be the joke of all pervading, though they both were intensely emotional, fearing that they would be the joke of all pervading Varuna's followers, to control their hearts and dissipate their tears, Krishna spoke, "Oh Father, you've been confined here." Though they both were intensely emotional, fearing that they would be the joke of all pervading, Varuna's followers, though they both were intensely emotional, fearing that they would be the joke of all pervading Varuna's followers, to control their hearts and dissipate their tears, Krishna spoke, "Oh Father, you have been confined here." Nanda looked around. "Where are we?" He looked at the face of his son in astonishment. Krishna said, "Oh Father, do not do anything else. Just as I've come here, we will return to Vraja. Get ready to put your lotus feet in that direction." When they were about to leave, Varuna spoke with piteous words. "You are compassionate. Please either punish me or show me mercy, but do not let my offense remain. Offense will not cease without punishment or mercy." Offense will not cease without punishment or mercy. As the two of them were leaving, they stood there for a moment. As the two of them were leaving, they stood there for a moment. Varuna offered various gifts at their feet and paid his respects. He accompanied them to the edge of the hole. When they came to the hole, he made the water part for them. He gave to those assigned to take Krishna and Nanda to Vraja. He gave to those assigned to take Krishna and Nanda to Vraja the best ornaments and cloth, and feeling momentary joy, returned to his abode, dancing while thinking himself successful. During this time, the people of Vraja remained lifeless on the bank of the river. During this time, the people of Vraja remained lifeless on the bank of the river. Waiting for Nanda and Krishna to appear again, they had slight symptoms of life. But when they saw the two returning with Varuna's servants, they fainted in bliss. During this time, the people of Vraja remained lifeless on the bank of the river. Waiting for Nanda and Krishna to appear again, they had slight symptoms of life. Waiting for Nanda and Krishna to appear again, they had slight symptoms of life. But when they saw the two returning with Varuna's servants, they fainted in bliss. Waiting for Nanda and Krishna to appear again, they had slight symptoms of life. But when they saw the two returning with Varuna's servants, they fainted in bliss. Only Balarama approached them and offered respects. Nanda, giving him great happiness, embraced him and losing external awareness, remained stunned for a moment without speaking. As Balarama offered repeated respects, Krishna came so quickly that no one could see, and he first brought his mother to consciousness by contact with his sweet touch. Then he revived the others. When Nanda had arrived, they all approached Krishna and Nanda, being aware of nothing else. But Nanda and Krishna were aware of all of them, no matter what their status. The roar of cows lowing, people chattering, flowers falling from heaven, along with music of verses, rose up in competition with each other. Balarama protected all the animals and directed everyone to suitable places in a sweet voice. Balarama protected all the animals and directed everyone to suitable places in a sweet voice. Balarama made Nanda sit on a white cloth and arranged sitting places for all others. He then asked what happened to his brother who was sitting next to him. Hearing the narration of events, he then told this to the cowed people. They invited the Brahmanas to come at their will and fed them sweet rice and gave them desirable gifts in profusion. Fearing profoundly that they would trespass the Dwadasi, they prayed that the vow could be completed without fault and made sure, fearing profoundly that they would trespass the Dwadasi, they prayed that the vow could be completed without fault and made sure that they finished the vow with the words and blessings of the Brahmanas. Considering themselves successful, they then returned to Vraja. Considering themselves successful, they then returned to Vraja. Walking along the path, Nanda looked effulgent between his two sons. Considering themselves successful, they then returned to Vraja. Walking along the path, Nanda looked effulgent between his two sons. Walking along the path, Nanda looked effulgent between his two sons. The speaker, finishing his narration, then spoke to Nanda. Where is the question of you being bound by Varuna? There's no fear since your son has great power. When Varuna said, "Oh Govinda, affectionate to your father, please take your father," that was Krishna's mercy caused by his great power. On another day, when Krishna was absent from the assembly, the cowards inquired from Nanda about the wondrous events that took place at Varuna's palace. Nanda profusely praised prosperity of Varuna, which was beyond human comprehension. Oh friends, hear the wonder. He then described the great reverence that the inhabitants displayed for Krishna. After Nanda's description, they were all astonished in their hearts, and they thought as follows on thinking that perhaps Krishna was the Supreme Lord. Even if it is true that he is the Lord because of his indestructible power of knowledge, he is the abode of great natural affection and the giver of complete bliss. Because of this, our minds are always eager to see his excellent qualities which destroy all longing. Will he show us this excellence without restriction? Will he show us this excellence without restriction? Recognizing all these people, both his relatives and others, as non-different from himself, he began to contemplate, attracted to them by his mercy and quickly falling under their control. Recognizing all these people, both his relatives and others, as non-different from himself, he began to contemplate, attracted to them by his mercy and quickly falling under their control. All these are my own people. They are now thinking of me as the Supreme Lord and desire to experience my greatness, which cannot be fully experienced. But they cannot experience this since they become astonished only by the powers of Varuna. They cannot realize my real greatness since it's similar to what they have already known. They have lost their discrimination and thus consider their and my appearance in this world to be a mundane appearance, which gives destinations for the jivas through their ignorance, lust and karma. Iti nandadayo gopa Krishna Rama katha muda kurvanto ramamanascha navindan bhava vedanam. In this way, all the coward men headed by Nanda Maharaja enjoyed topics about the pastimes of Krishna and Balarama with great transcendental pleasure, and they could not even perceive material tribulations. SB 10:1158. In this way, all the coward men headed by Nanda Maharaja enjoyed topics about the pastimes of Krishna and Balarama with great transcendental pleasure, and they could not even perceive material tribulations. 58. In this way, all the coward men headed by Nanda Maharaja enjoyed topics about the pastimes of Krishna and Balarama with great transcendental pleasure, and they could not perceive material tribulations. SB 10:1158. Krishner Pitatma Suhrud Artha Kalatra Kama. They had offered Krishna everything, their very selves, their families, their wealth, wives, and all pleasures. SB 10:1610. Krishna Kamala Patrakshe Sanyasta Kila Radasa. Those cowards had dedicated everything to lotus-eyed Krishna. SB 10:65-6. Esham Gosha Nivasinam Yuta Bhavan Kim Devara Teti Nash Cheto Vishwa Falat Phalam Tvad Aparam Kutrapi Ayan Muhyati Sadveshad Iva Putanapi Sakula Tvam Eva Deva Pita Yad Dhamartha Sukrut Priyatma Tanaya Pranashayas Tvat Krite. My mind becomes bewildered just trying to think of what reward other than you could be found anywhere. My mind becomes bewildered just trying to think. My mind becomes bewildered just of what reward other than you could be found anywhere. You are the embodiment of all benedictions which you bestow upon these residents of the covered community of Vrindavana. My mind becomes bewildered just trying to think of what reward other than you could be found anywhere. You are the embodiment of all benedictions which you bestow upon these residents of the covered community of Vrindavana. You are the embodiment of all benedictions which you bestow upon these residents of the covered community of Vrindavana. Which you bestow upon these residents of the covered community of Vrindavana. You have already arranged to give yourself to Putana and her family members. In exchange, you have already arranged to give yourself to Putana and her family members in exchange for a disguising herself as a devotee. So what is left for you to give these devotees of Vrindavana, whose homes, wealth, friends, dear relations, bodies, children, and very lives and hearts are all dedicated only to you? Thus they have great prema which controls me. When their minds separation from me, it's not because of ignorance. I can never consider that their prema is similar to the prema of others. Caring for me in many ways, they have developed desire arising from bewilderment, which is actually prema for me. From the beginning, I have been bound by the obligation to them, though I do not give the opportunity to become obligated to other devotees. From the beginning, I have been bound by the obligation to them, though from the beginning, I have been bound by the obligation to them, though I do not give the opportunity to become obligated to other devotees. I am a debtor to them and they are creditors to me. When they give everything to me, their condition is my condition. My supreme power is obedience to them. It's not possible to surpass them. Nanda, who was astonished on seeing the powers of Varuna, is a cause of sorrow for me, for I can never become absorbed in prema for him and others as much as they are absorbed in prema for me. Thinking about this subject, I will now make them realize their own greatness through an experience of Yoga Maya filled with auspicious meditation. After thinking in this way, on another day, Nanda and the cowards were present in the assembly with Brahmanas at the city. Brahmanas at the city gate, as recounted in the Varaha Purana. Nanda, who was astonished on seeing the powers of Varuna, is a cause of sorrow for me, for I can never become absorbed in prema for him and others as much as they are absorbed in prema for me. Thinking about this subject, I will now make them realize their own greatness through an experience of Yoga Maya filled with auspicious meditation. After thinking in this way on another day, Nanda and others, after thinking in this way on another day, Nanda and the cowards were present in the assembly, with Brahmanas at the city gate. As recounted in the Varaha Purana. They thought that if they bathed on the full moon of Kartika month in Brahmahruda, which gave blessings to Akrura, they would quickly receive full results for their desires. Thinking this action to be the best, they went to Brahmahruda with their coward relatives in the early morning. Krishna went along with them and submerged himself in the river, went to the bank. He then showed them Goloka, full of eternity. Full of eternity, knowledge and bliss, endowed with form, taste, fragrance, touch and sound by its spiritual nature, and which is not revealed even to Atma Ramas, since it's covered by the Lord's energy so that no one can see it. That place is called Brahmaloka, a planet with the human form of the Supreme Brahman. That place is called Brahmaloka, a planet with the human form of the Supreme Brahman, visible by withdrawing the curtain, as if revealing a wonderful picture. They saw that Krishna, the Tilaka of their family, was sitting among cowards similar to themselves. The Vedas personified were singing praises of Krishna's pastime, starting from his birth. The Vedas personified were singing praises of Krishna's pastimes, starting from his birth. This confirmed the powers of Krishna to the cowards. This confirmed the powers of Krishna to the cowards. Seeing Krishna with his people in, this confirmed the powers of Krishna to the cowards. Seeing Krishna with his people in Brahmaloka, the inhabitants of Raja gave up lamentation and felt increasing happiness because of bliss mixed with astonishment. Krishna, the enemy of the demons, then separated the people of Vraja from Goloka in order to complete his pastimes of afflicting the demons on earth. Krishna, the enemy of the demons, then separated the people of Vraja from Goloka in order to complete his pastimes of afflicting the demons on earth. The speaker concluded as follows. O Nanda, you have given birth to a son who conquered the planet of Varuna and showed you and your people this planet. O Nanda, you have given birth to a son who conquered the planet of Varuna and showed you and your people this planet. I offer respects to Krishna who revealed Goloka and showed that the cowards reside within Goloka and Goloka takes shelter of them. After revealing the events in the morning, the evening events were related. Snigdhakanta began speaking. Krishna went to the planet of Varun. Snigdhakanta began speaking. When Krishna went to the planet of Varuna with his father, it is false to say that Radha and other gopis remained here. What should I say? An inanimate object experiences nothing, and a conscious being experiences joy and sorrow and cannot attain a state of void. When Krishna went to retrieve his father, Radha's life went with Krishna. When Krishna returned, Radha's life suddenly returned. This situation has been skillfully described by the poets. When Krishna returned from Varuna's planet, the wise, affectionate Purnamasi observed Radha coming. When Krishna returned from Varuna's planet, the wise, affectionate Purnamasi observed Radha coming with Krishna. In the evening, she made known to the couple the longing within the other. And expressed in words in front of them the other's inner feelings, the longing fixed in Radha. O Creator, if you bring me to other people, Krishna, then at least give me a method so that I can be happy seeing the beauty of his face so that I will not suffer because of separation from him. The longing fixed in Krishna. I delivered my worshipable father from Varuna's planet and made everyone happy. Out of sorrow for me, has not Radha withered away with choked voice? I delivered my worshipable father from Varuna's planet and made everyone happy. Out of sorrow for me, has not Radha withered away with choked voice? The meaning of the statement is that she does wither away with a broken cries. The meaning of the statement is that she does wither away with a broken cries. Purnamasi described Radha's emotions to Krishna and Krishna's emotions to Radha in private and particularly scolded him. O Madhava, what resides in your heart other than Anuraga? This gives you joy, but it is certainly because of this that gold become white. Determining that Krishna's body had become liquid because of affection, she then said with a laugh, O Madhava, you are full of good qualities by which you attract Radha from far away. O Madhava, you are full of good qualities by which you attract Radha from far away. Radha is full of affection by which even while residing in her house, she melts your heart. Radha is full of affection by which even while residing in her house, she melts your heart. Madhukanta said, who is this old woman? You have previously said that it is not possible for other people to enter their pastimes. Snigdhakanta said with a smile, Purnamasi enters there in various dresses. From that time, Krishna began playing attractive songs on his flute every day at midnight. That is not a lie. That is not a lie. The women waited for this. He or someone is the archer who destroys the dharma with his arrows. The sudden appearance of Spurti everywhere while she was in the house, while she was sleeping, churning the yogurt, standing amongst people, or was in the water or the forest. Radha's pain simply increased because of not attaining him. She became depressed on not being able to see or touch him. She became depressed on not being able to see or touch him. To conclude, he said, "Oh Radha with youthful limbs." To conclude, he said, "Oh Radha with youthful limbs, you have a lover Kanti, by whose desire you have become a supreme object." The word Kanti means beauty and desire. Chapter 21, stealing the young gopis' clothing. Snigdhakanta again spoke the same evening to the Sakhis. After Garga performed the samskaras for Krishna and Balarama, thus delineating their status, many young girls being very fortunate, were born in Vraja in various families. And by their nature developed desires for Krishna alone from the time they were small children, Kaumara. This should be described. When they had developed an inclination that Krishna would be their husband, they were ignorant of a method. When they developed an inclination that Krishna would be their husband, they were ignorant of a method. The gopis, having beauty like the moon, grew thin like the waning moon because of their inclination to Krishna and because of their great sorrow. When they had developed an inclination that Krishna would be their husband, they were ignorant of a method. When they had developed an inclination that Krishna would be their husband, when they had developed an inclination that Krishna would be their husband, they were ignorant of a method. The gopis, having beauty like the moon, grew thin like the waning moon because of their inclination to Krishna and because of their great sorrow. When alone, they would pray to various devatas for attaining Krishna. They wandered about with no aim. They prayed, "May we live in the house of Nanda and Yashoda, and may they be our father-in-law and mother-in-law. May Krishna be our husband birth after birth." One day, the young girls met together and went to the bank of the Yamuna. This was suitable. Though many students study under one guru, their goal is one and they gather at one place. Though many students study under one guru, their goal is one and they gather at one place. Though many students study under one guru, their goal is one and they gather at one place. This was suitable. Though many students study under one guru, their goal is one and they gather at one place. This was suitable. Though many students study under one guru, their goal is one and they gather at one place. The girls of various births, being friends, gathered together in one place with the same goal. When they gathered together, their sentiments became one. Though born in various places, they all had affection for Krishna, just as when thick clouds gathered together, there's rain. When thick clouds gathered together, there is rain. Though sometimes they were unfriendly to each other, now they showed great friendship because though they hid their hearts when among their elders, they revealed their hearts to each other. How could they hide their hearts when they met together? Though sometimes they were unfriendly to each other, now they showed great friendship because though they hid their hearts when among their elders, they revealed their hearts to each other. How could they hide their hearts when they met together? When they revealed their hearts to each other, tears flowed from their eyes and their bodies fainted. Observing them and desiring their happiness, Vrinda approached them wearing the cloth of a mendicant. When they revealed their hearts to each other, tears flowed from their eyes and their bodies fainted. Observing them and desiring their happiness, Vrinda approached them wearing the cloth of a mendicant. When they revealed their hearts to each other, tears flowed from their eyes and their bodies fainted. Observing them and desiring their happiness, Vrinda approached them wearing the cloth of a mendicant. Observing them and desiring their happiness, Vrinda approached them wearing the cloth of a mendicant. Earlier, Vrinda had thought, all these young girls have attraction to meet Krishna, but they cannot express this. Attraction arises from conventional affection and becomes strong when it awakens. Attraction arises from conventional affection and becomes strong when it awakens. They should worship a devata, not worship him. Attraction arises from conventional affection and becomes strong when it awakens. They should worship him. They should worship a devata and not worship him. She was welcomed and blessed them. After the formalities, she began to speak. Oh, young girls, I live in this forest. Seeing your attraction for Krishna, I have come with a heart laden with compassion. I have a method for achieving your goals. Please hear about it carefully. You can accomplish this without great endeavor, but you must practice with a little endeavor for 1 month. I have mastered that compassionate magical method endowed with mantras. You can accomplish this without great endeavor, but you must practice with a little endeavor for 1 month. You can accomplish this without great endeavor, but you must practice with a little endeavor for 1 month. I have mastered this, that compassionate endowed with mantras. Just as one places the Nidhi gem in a particular place, Vrinda placed the mantra in the ears of the girls, taught them the method of worship, and feeling satisfied within, disappeared. Attached to her teachings, the girls became absorbed in the highest bliss. The greatness of profuse raga assisted all of them constantly, and they had attained a method for fulfilling their desires. Thus, they experienced pure bliss. The supreme Vaishnavi Shakti, most worshipable, was their guru for Anuraga. The supreme Vaishnavi Shakti, most worshipable, was their guru for Anuraga. The supreme Vaishnavi Shakti, most worshipable, was their guru for Anuraga. The best of mantras would fulfill their desires. What other happiness could they desire? The young girls began the vow on the first day of Agrahayana month with a sankalpa. The young girls began the vow on the first day of Agrahayana month with a sankalpa. Leaving their houses together 4 dandas before sunrise, they went to the bank of the Yamuna while holding hands and singing. While going, they joked and revealed their intentions. The young girls began the vow on the first day of Agrahayana month with a sankalpa. Leaving their houses together 4 dandas before sunrise, went to the bank of the Yamuna while holding hands and singing. While going, they joked and revealed their intentions. Oh friend, The form of all auspiciousness, wearing a garland and endowed with the best qualities, will marry you. Nanda, pleased with this, is spreading the joyful news. On hearing the news, your mother and father become joyful and distribute wealth. Hiding this joy within, Krishna will make you angry with joking words sent through friends. On hearing the news, your mother and father become joyful and distribute wealth. Hiding his joy within, Krishna will make you angry with joking words sent through friends. On hearing the news, your mother and father become joyful and distribute wealth. Hiding his joy within, Krishna will make you angry with joking words sent through friends. After the matchmaker decides the auspicious day, Krishna will don new cloth for his wedding. Don new cloth for his wedding. His dark complexion mixing with the gold color of his cloth is cloth is like the cloud with lightning bolts, the basis of all beauty. He has a yellow vest which sparkles with various colors. He wears a crown, head ornaments. He wears a crown, head ornaments, and turban, and has jewels in his locks of hair. He wears tilaka and has jewels in his locks of hair. He wears tilaka. Earrings decorate his cheeks. His lips become reddened with beetle stains, and he covers his lips with a cloth held in his hand. His lips become reddened with beetle stains, and he covers his lips with a cloth held in his hand. His lips become reddened with beetle stains, and he covers his lips with a cloth held in his hand. He has a necklace on his throat. He has armlets, bracelets, and rings on his fingers, and a colored thread on his wrist. He has armlets, bracelets, and rings on his fingers, and a colored thread on his wrist. On his heart are a necklace and the kaustuba. He wears many garlands. He has a shining belt with jewels on his waist. He has a shining belt with jewels on his waist and ornaments on his feet. No one has ever seen such remarkable dressing. He is the ornament for all those ornaments and limbs. Such pride is acceptable. The people watched him arrive on a jewel cart surrounded by friends. The people watched him arrive on a jewel cart surrounded by friends. They shower him with flowers while he sits on the cart, and they sing songs. They shower him with flowers while he sits on the cart, and they sing songs. He's pleased with the sound of the cart and hundreds of instruments. He's pleased with the sound of the cart and hundreds of instruments. Friend, on hearing the tumultuous sounds of the marriage, your heart will become agitated. Oh friend, on hearing the tumultuous sounds of the marriage, your heart will become agitated. Oh friend, when he arrives at your door, you faint in bliss. Oh friend, Oh friend, on hearing the tumultuous sounds of the marriage, your heart will become agitated. Oh friend, when he arrives at your door, you faint in bliss. Oh friend, your relatives will approach the groom and women with red lips will sing. The instrumentalists will approach the groom and the song will be loud. The women will approach, perform aratrika and sprinkle flowers. Oh beautiful girl, when Krishna comes to the pavilion, your happiness will increase. Beautiful girl, after Nanda and others have been worshipped, there will be much joking. Having followed the preliminary rules, they will bring you to Krishna along with many gems. They will bring you, limbs are weak because of love in front of him. Your father will take your weak, join it with Krishna's hand using water. Beautiful face girl, no one will understand your great happiness. What more can I say? I see that he has accepted your attractive hand. Beautiful face girl, no one will understand your great happiness. What more can I say? I see that he has accepted your attractive hand. Coming to the Yamuna, quickly finishing their songs, they shed their garments on the bank of the river in the early morning with childish flurry and coming together, submerged themselves in the water. Because there was silk, that cloth was not rejected, even though it was not washed again. They put on the cloth, made a worshipable deity of Katyayani out of sand, chanted mantras, and returned to their houses. For 1 month, they performed this vow. On the last day, when the vow was to be completed, in great bliss, they went to the bank of the in the water for a few moments without bashfulness. Since the place was isolated and far off from habitation, understanding what they were doing for a moment, understanding what they were doing for a month, understanding what they were doing for a month, Krishna took 4 young boys with him and went there secretly, watching them while offering his heart to them. The wise understand that Dhamma, Sudama, Vasudama, and Kinkini are the external manifestations of Krishna's mind, intelligence, chitta, and ahankara. The wise understand that Dhamma, Sudama, Vasudama, and Kinkini, Dhamma, Sudama, Vasudama, and Kinkini are the external manifestations of Krishna's mind, intelligence, chitta, and ahankara. Dhamma, Sudama, Vasudama, and Kinkini are the external manifestations of Krishna's mind, intelligence, chitta, and ahankara. When they turned 5 years old, they received a shower of prema from Krishna every day and became joyful in association of others their same age. They went along with him asking, "Where are we going?" Clever Krishna, taking company of the 4 boys, arrived at the Yamuna and signaled them to stop laughing of his hand. Bending down while the girls could not see, he stole their clothing. Taking the clothes, he quickly climbed in a kadamba tree and began laughing along with the boys. Hearing the laughing, the young girls all together looked up in fear. Hearing the deep-throated laugh, whose supreme excellence was appreciated by others around him, the girls glanced at each other. Not seeing their clothing where they left it, they submerged their bodies in the water up to their necks. Not seeing their clothing where they left it, they submerged their bodies in the water up to their necks, appearing like lotuses. Not seeing the clothing where they left it, they submerged their bodies in the water up to their necks, appearing like lotuses. appearing like lotuses. The faces of the girls could not be mistaken for lotuses, since they derided the forest of lotuses, for no lotus blossomed in the winter season. The girls remained with downcast eyes for some time in the water. They then glanced at the Kadamba tree when the chill became intense. They then glanced at the Kadamba tree when the chill became intense. Previously, Krishna hid himself behind the branches, but now he made himself visible. Krishna's glance at the faces of the girls with their bodies submerged in water was like a bee within a lotus. The girls gazed at Krishna just as a Chataka bird gazes at a cloud. The young boys laughed loudly and the young girls became angry. The young boys laughed loudly and the young girls became angry. The boys said, stealing become respected in Braja. The young boys laughed loudly and the young girls became angry. The boys said, stealing your clothes will become respected in Braja. The young boys laughed loudly and the young girls became angry. The boys said, stealing your clothes will become respected in Braja. With Krishna giving them constant instructions, the young boys spoke. First they said, we do not know at all whether our action is permissible or not. But we came to teach you since we have understood our lessons. Looking at each other with shame, the girl said, you have learned well from some teacher. Please practice teaching in Braja to gain the respect of your teacher. Again, the boys, on being instructed by Krishna, spoke. Again, the boys, on being instructed by Krishna, spoke. We do not know why you are scolding us, and we reside in the trees. The girl said, one should criticize the acts of you thieves sitting on the edges of the tree's branches. One should criticize the acts of you thieves sitting on the edges of the tree's branches. Since our clothes have been stolen, we are suffering from being submerged in the water. Then Krishna himself spoke with feigned anger and astonishment. What did we steal from you? The girl said, we are many. Why are you trying to hide our clothing with great difficulty? Krishna said, you are certainly covered by the sky. Why are you saying that I've stolen the sky? They said, O Damodara, you have the power to make cloth, Ambara, become sky, Ambara. How much bravery will you gain by stealing in this isolated place? How much bravery? Oh, they said, oh Damodara, you have the power to make cloth become sky. How much bravery will you gain by stealing in this isolated place? Krishna spoke in a gentle voice. These girls are not naked, but are covered with water. I am laughing at that. You can see that they have bad character and are gentle only superficially. These poverty-stricken girls are unlawfully eyeing our clothing that we have thrown about while playing. They cover themselves in water while thinking which piece of cloth is most suitable for them. While desiring a private place far from our eyes to put on that cloth, you can clearly see the golden cloth in the clear water of the Yamuna, which clings to the various limbs of their bodies, appearing like groups of letters. Go quickly to the water and take the girls out by grabbing their hands. Understanding his order, the boys went to the bank and stood waiting for a moment out of respect. The girls addressed the boys. Why are you standing there stunned? Come close without fear. The girl spoke to the friends, oh friends, bring these thieves into the water and dunk them. They spoke to the boys, we can pull the person who taught you how to steal women's belts and clothing into the water by the mercy of Katyayani. What to speak of pulling you in? Hearing this, the boy stumbled back to the Kadamba tree and quickly climbed up, laughingly, addressed them clearly. Ah, you are playing in this place like auspicious women. Let your pride remain. I see that the Devatas are merciful to you. As long as you remain living in the water, we are determined to stay on the top of this tree, living in the air. Understanding his words, the girls reveal their minds using puns. One who remains in a boat or tree has no fear of the river. Why ask about the river to persons who have offered their bodies into the river? One who remains in a boat or tree has no fear of the river. Why ask about the river to persons who have offered their bodies into the river? Smiling, he began to speak compassionately to the girls who were shivering from seeing his face and from the cold waves. Oh, rare girls, oh, rare girls, your joints are becoming loose because of the cold. Please come here. Oh, rare girls, your joints are becoming loose because of the cold. Please come here. Frowning, they said, why are you asking us to come? Frowning, they said, why are you asking us to come? Krishna said, please come and take the clothes by a forest spirit and taken from her by me. Please come and take the clothes which were stolen by a forest spirit and taken from her by me. They said, what more do we need to look for? Saying this, they stretched out their hands and advanced slightly. Krishna then said while pointing his finger, oh, lotus-eyed girls, come here close to me. They said, why are you telling us to come here? Krishna said, my glance has become extraordinary. They said, what does that mean? Krishna said, you cannot change clothing during an eclipse. They said to each other, oh fools, he's speaking in order to cheat us. Biting his tongue, Krishna then spoke while showing the cloth. I speak the truth, it's not a lie. Suspecting some obstacles, the girls spoke amongst themselves. Oh fools, this is one of his jokes. He's laughing heartily within himself. Hiding his smiley smoke, he spoke sweet words. This is not a joke. You have become thin because of your vows to Katyayani. You are so pitiful, you should not suffer. They said, someone who takes others' clothing because of lust and then acts compassionate to them when they are cold shows himself to be most absurd. Let that be. Speak truthfully. When did you begin speaking the truth? Krishna said, I never speak lies. They said, who said that? Krishna spoke with a smile. Ah, proud girls, if you make incorrect conclusions about me, then please ask this most righteous people gathered here. Krishna spoke with a smile. Ah, proud girls, if you make incorrect conclusions about me, then please ask these most righteous people gathered here. They said while smiling, true, they seem to know your intentions and they are righteous. Krishna said, ah, girls with thin ways, if you think my words are not true, then see with your eyes. You can all come, or one among you can come forward. Then seeing how Krishna was joking with them, the gopis became fully immersed in love for him. And as they glanced at each other, they began to laugh and joke among themselves, even in their embarrassment, but still they did not come out of the water. SB 10:22:12. They were embarrassed to go to the shore and were freezing cold in the water. Thus they all remained there. Stunned. They spoke a little. Thus they all remained there, stunned. They spoke a little. You are the jewel of Nanda, the object of affection for the people and are respected by them. We are becoming disturbed in heart because of the extreme cold. Please give us our clothing. Give us our clothing. Do not act improperly. Krishna said, I have seen some crafty person here. Since you are from good families, I must help you who are defenseless, since the forest spirit has stolen your clothing. Therefore, I'm acting like this. We do not have any interest in your lowly clothing. If you give something to satisfy us, with joy we will remove the obstacle caused by the forest spirit. Hearing this, the girls who were engaged in worshipping Katyayani began to reflect, he's trying to make us reveal the exact intentions in our minds. This is the right time to reveal the attraction in our minds, but we should be careful of deceit. That seems natural since we are now freezing and frightened. They said to him, we are freezing from the icy wind and are about to die. You should not joke with us using torturous words. Give us our clothes. We will accept the bad name, what you wish to give us. Smiling, he said, if you give what I want, I will accept obedience to you. They began to think, he has become expert at affecting our hearts. Anyway, we must go along with his jokes and serve him. They then spoke clearly, Shyama Sundara, we are your servants. Krishna spoke with a smile, please do as I previously stated. Looking at eyes, they spoke, all right, we will do as you have said. Though filled with eagerness, Krishna remained silent. Then they spoke again, O knower of Dharma, give us our clothing. Since you break your promises elsewhere, you should not pronounce Dharma while causing mortal wounds. When Krishna remained silent, hiding an amused smile, they again spoke, if you do not do this, we will tell the king. They spoke in this way to cause fear in him. Though he was without fear, they did not mean it. The intention of their statement was to make him understand the word king. Krishna replied suitably, when will you be my servants? When will you follow my words? I have not realized that yet. If this topic is true, without alternatives, rise from the water, bringing with you all treasures, and come here as a group with smiles, not with even a little rudeness. Not with even a little rudeness. If you do not do this, why should we help young girls who have made false vows and have introduced adharma? If you do not do this, why should we help young girls who have made false vows and have introduced adharma? If you do not do this, why should we help young girls who have made false vows and have introduced adharma? Seeing that they did not come out of the water, he then spoke using harsh words. I do not seek a relationship with you girls who are useless, hopeless, and vulgar, but you should understand that I'm quite merciful to you. Otherwise, I would not give you the cloth. What can an angry king do? He had mentioned the word king deceitfully. Then in silence and in fear, they began to trust the words of Krishna, the crest jewel of civility and compassion. Still, they did not completely trust him. However, though their bodies could not move because of shame, they rose from the water in order to get relief from the pain of the cold. However, though their bodies could not move because of shame, they rose from the water in order to get relief from the pain of the cold. Because their limbs were becoming numb. This is how the wise described their situation. Though they acted this way because of the cold, there is also another reason. If our desires are fulfilled, we will maintain our bodies. Otherwise, we will give up our bodies. This much we agree on. If the agreement is not met, even then, what is the use? Since we will die, going to him without clothing, we can use the pretext of the cold. If our desires are fulfilled, we will maintain our bodies. Otherwise, we will give up our bodies. This much we agree on. If the agreement is not met, even then, what is the use of our shame? Since we will die. If the agreement is not met, even then, what is the use of our shame? Since we will die. Going to him without clothing, we can use the pretext of the cold. Somehow they came out of the water, but they did not reveal themselves completely. They placed their delicate hands in front of them, acting as their lower clothing, and by spreading their hair, they obtained an upper covering. Placing infant girls in front of them, they approached Krishna with their bodies contracted like hunchbacks. Laughed loudly amongst themselves, saying, "Look, Krishna, these young girls, completely frightened, are coming here after throwing their clothing in the water." Krishna, however, being contemplative, showed great mercy. Though women endowed with all good qualities are compared to the moon, these young girls surpassed that comparison, since they were without blemish. How astonishing! These girls from good families desire to give up their bodies. How astonishing! These girls from good families desire to give up their bodies. They cannot give up their shame. They have approached me in this condition. It is good that they worry about displeasing me. Their eagerness has made them give up reservations, and they look to me in their condition of suffering. My heart desires to make clear jokes which fulfill my desires and point out their faults in order to remove their shyness. Though they have come, they are fully inhibited and remain there covering their limbs. He then spoke out loud, "Ah, you are fickle boys. Why are you laughing? These girls are without clothes. Can they be criticized in a naked state?" Taking the cloth from a branch of the Kadamba tree and showing it to them, he spoke with a smile in order to express his love. "I will give you the cloth. I will give you the cloth when you decide to become my servants. Previously, it was difficult to decide, but seeing the situation now, it's clear. You have learned about conducting worship from a genuine guru, but I have become pale on seeing your bad conduct. But I have become pale on seeing your bad conduct. You should understand that by entering the river naked, you have offended the deity of the water. In order to nullify this fault, you must place your hands on your heads and offer respects to the deity." The girls felt shame in their hearts. They were overcome with intense fear. They understood that they must obey his order. It's improper that these boys see our private parts, but there's no harm in showing them to a husband who's like a devata. They thus diverted the boys by saying, "Look, someone is making sound over there." In a joking manner, they offered respects to Krishna. "Oh, Master, we offer respects to you." Seeing their limbs with interest and eagerness, considering their tenderness and beauty, he became satisfied. He gave them their clothing with a laugh. "Because of seeing you, I have easily attained you as my wives. Because of seeing you, I have easily attained you as my wives. For myself to you." Having satisfied them, he showed his own cleverness. Unfavorable speech produced out of friendship produces complaints and joy. See, by stealing their clothes, he gave them great bliss. When Krishna came down from the tree to hide their shame, the girls put on their clothing with even greater embarrassment. Clear rati manifested in them and spread throughout their limbs. Their lotus faces began to blossom slightly on attaining Krishna. Their lotus faces began to blossom slightly on attaining Krishna. Began to blossom slightly on attaining Krishna. Their glances fell upon him. Their glances fell upon him. Ah, the movement of love is crooked. The movement of love is crooked. Krishna came to give them a gift, but he forgot everything on smelling the fragrance from their lotus faces with his nose. As bees surround lotuses filled with honey, the young girls remained around him, accepting him as their husband. The girls then said, "Let's go. What else should we do here?" Taking the in their hands, they felt bliss. Krishna, attractive because of stealing the clothing, looked for the gift he was to give. Thereafter, understanding that the girls undergoing penance desired to touch his hand, he desired to fulfill that desire. Thereafter, understanding that the girls undergoing penance desired to touch his hand, he decided to fulfill that desire. Thereafter, understanding that the girls undergoing penance desired to touch his hand, he decided to fulfill that desire. If one worships someone else for one's own benefit, it is worship for the self. One who is absorbed in me but shows disrespect externally gives me pain. I am the first type of person. You are the second type. I consider your unconditional vow to be the highest truth. In desiring me, you have no other desire, just as grains fried in ghee. In desiring me, you have no other desire, just as grains fried in ghee and then fermented in sugar dissolve. Worshipping only me, you worship no other object. There's only taste for me. Thus, what more can I say about you? When the best of women heard this, when he hinted that they should marry according to Gandharva rites, their eyes showed embarrassment and they waited for the time of acceptance. Increasing his powers for accepting them, increasing his powers for accepting them in marriage, he again spoke pure words to them. Mutual acceptance of the bride and groom is the method of Gandharva marriage. Mutual acceptance is the highest dharma and manifests naturally between a couple. Having reached success by the Gandharva method of marriage, please return to Vraja. On a night very soon we will meet. When he promised them this, their devotion increased further. Shukadeva said, Iti adishta bhagavata labdha kama kumarika dhyayatyastat padam bhojam krichra nirvivishur vrajam. Thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the young girls, their desire now fulfilled, could bring themselves only with great difficulty to return to the village of Vraja, meditating all the while upon his lotus feet. SB 10, 22, 28. Thus instructed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the young girls, their desire now fulfilled, could bring themselves only with great difficulty to return to the village of Vraja, meditating all the while upon his lotus feet. SB 10, 22, 28. Got it. The young girls, their desire now fulfilled, could bring themselves only with great difficulty to return to the village of Vraja, meditating all the while upon his lotus feet. SB 10, 22, 28. When the girls bowed to him in shyness, their eyes experienced first his eyes. When the girls bowed to him in shyness, their eyes experienced first his eyes. Then his red lips, then his arms, then his waist, then his hips. When the girls bowed to him in shyness, their eyes experienced first his eyes, then his red lips, then his arms, then his waist, hips, thighs, knees, and lotus feet. When they separated from him and returned to Vraja, they saw those limbs within their hearts continually. Krishna stole their cloth and their hearts and only returned their cloth. He did not return their hearts, but hid them. He did not return their hearts, but hid them. The last day of the worship and vows had passed. The last day of the worship and vows had passed. Joyful and attaining Krishna as their husband, they forgot the worship and returned to Vraja. All their actions were fulfilled. All their actions were filled with the happiness of attaining him. They had obtained the happiness of Krishna, accepting to be their husband as a result of their prema. They had obtained the happiness of Krishna, accepting to be their husband. They had obtained the happiness of Krishna, accepting to be their husband, and as a result, to be their husband as a result of their prema. for which reason they had worshipped Katyayani. They had obtained the happiness of Krishna, accepting to be their husband as a result of their prema, for which reason they had worshipped Katyayani. What more could be attained after this? Madhukanta said, why did Katyayani, who ate the sweets, offer doing that man, not come to bestow the desired result? Snigdha, the girls was capable of bestowing the best results. Our worship does not give such results. Katyayani did not come to bestow benedictions, but Krishna, the object of their anuraga, came personally. Madhukanta said, then Garga kept these young girls especially separated from Krishna. Snigdha said, he did so, but not directly. Madhukanta said, how is that? Snigdha said, Krishna was not eager to come back to Vraja to see Radha and other women of Vraja, best of chaste women who were suffering from being married to men. Snigdha said, Krishna was not eager to come back to Vraja to see Radha and other women of Vraja, best of chaste women who were suffering from being married to men. And the vows of taking the sacred thread and weddings could not be conducted without bringing Garga again. Since Nanda and Yashoda accepted Garga's proposal, Radha and other women were no longer available to him. Because his mind was disturbed by this, he kept apart from the young girls at that time. Since Nanda and Yashoda accepted Garga's proposal, Radha and other women were available to him. Since Nanda and Yashoda accepted Garga's proposal, Radha and other women were no longer available to him. Because his mind was disturbed by this, he kept apart from the young girls at that time. Madhukanta said, how did the young girls carry on after that? Snigdha said, externally they were still young, but because they married Krishna, they were no longer young girls. Madhukanta said, that's true. Their present state was opposite to their previous childish condition. They remained separated but from Krishna. They remained separated from Krishna because his consciousness was predominated by Radha and others. After elaborating on this subject, the reciter addressed Radha. When Krishna delayed, the strength of love became stronger. When Krishna delayed, the strength of love became stronger because of lack of meeting with you. As previously, Krishna again began playing his flute. Shukadeva, Guru of Parikshit, has recited a verse which is pertinent to his pastime, though it belongs to the description of the Ras Leela. The words of the gopis has recited a verse which is pertinent to this pastime, though it belongs to the description of the Ras Leela. The words of the Rasa, Sharad Udashaye Sadhu Jata Sat Sarasi Jodara Shri Mushadrisha Suratanatate Shulkadasika Varadhanignato Neha Kimvadha. O Lord of love, in beauty your glance excels the world of the finest. O Lord of love, in beauty your glance excels the world of the finest. Most perfectly formed lotus within the autumn pond, O bestower of benedictions, you are killing the maidservants who have given themselves to you freely. O bestower of benedictions, you are killing the maidservants who have given themselves to you freely without any price. Isn't this murder? SB 10:31-2. Yaryambu Jaksha Tavapada Talam Ramaya Dattakshanam Kwachid Aranya Janapriyasya Asprakshmatat Prabhriti Nanya Samaksham Anja Statum Tvayabhirama Mita Bata Parayama. O lotus-eyed one, the goddess of fortune considers it a festive occasion whenever she touches the soles of your lotus feet. Very dear to the residents of the forest, and therefore we will also touch those lotus feet. O lotus-eyed one, the goddess of fortune considers it a festive occasion whenever she touches the soles of your lotus feet. You are very dear to the residents of the forest, and therefore we will also touch those lotus feet. From that time on, we will be unable even to stand in the presence of any other man, for we will have been fully satisfied by you. SB 10, 29, 36. Thus they made a request in misery at the beginning of the evening of the Rasa dance. Purna Pulindya Urugaya Padabja Raga Shri Kunkumena Daita Stanamanditena Tad Darshana Smara Rujastruna Rushitena Limpantya Anana Kucheshu Juhustad Adhim. The aborigine women of the Vrindavana area become disturbed by lust when they see the grass marked with reddish kunkuma powder, endowed with the color of Krishna's lotus feet. Endowed with the color of Krishna's lotus feet, this powder originally decorated the breasts of his beloveds. And when the aborigine women smear it on their, this powder, endowed with the color of Krishna's lotus feet, this powder originally decorated the breasts of his beloveds. And when the aborigine women smear it on their faces and breasts, they feel fully satisfied and give up all their anxiety. SB 10, 21, 17. This description indicates the influence of flute, which was previously described. This description indicates the influence of flute, which was previously described. That second contact cannot be simply a special experience arising from meeting with Krishna, since Krishna could not at all refuse them on the night of the Rasa dance. Krishna could not at all refuse them on the night of the Rasa dance. At the beginning of the Rasa dance, it is said, at the beginning of the Rasa dance, it is said, Krishna also thought of enjoying. He did not feel complete without them. SB 10, 29, 1. The women had said, O lotus-eyed one, the considers it a festive occasion whenever she touches the soles of your lotus feet. You are very dear to the residents of the forest, and therefore we will also touch those lotus feet. From that time on, we will be unable to even stand in the presence of any other man, for we will have been fully satisfied by you. 10, 29, 36. The meaning is, after you have touched us, you have endowed us completely with Rati, Bhava. Then the following is described. After Krishna played his flute in the evening through the long, dull nights of Hemanta and then Shishira seasons, springtime finally arrived. Though spring is known as the best season, in Vrindavana it reached its topmost state. Though spring is known as the best season, in Vrindavana it reached its topmost state. When summer becomes like spring, what can we say of the attractiveness of actual spring? The wise know that Krishna resides in Vrindavana at that time eternally. Hemanta and Shishira seasons brought both Krishna and the women distress and pain. Spring, which precedes the summer, also gave them remarkable pain. All the women thought as follows, O friend, when spring comes, the bad conduct of all the seasons. What can we say about our real desire? Spring previously entered and afflicted us with the sound of cuckoos and bees. What insolence! The bee is a fool and the cuckoo is a slave. We see the bee and cuckoo as the bee is a fool and the cuckoo is a slave. We see the bee and cuckoo as the commanders-in-chief of spring. What woman can spend their time in happiness? The flowers make us think of his sweet smiling face, and the lotuses remind us of his eyes. The cuckoos remind us of his playing the fifth note, and the bees remind us of his kiss. Where is the means? From where will the means arise? What means do we have to attain him? The world is now covered with the symptoms of spring. We do not approve of spring because it does not act properly. But where can we flee? The spring is pulling us toward Krishna. The spring is pulling us towards Krishna. The bees are like the fire smoke, and the wind is sharp. The gentle touch of the palasha flower gives pain. The cuckoos fly about like firebrands. The flowers with their pollen are like ashes. It's not astonishing then that we are burning. The flowers with their pollen are like ashes. It's not astonishing then that we are burning. The cloud of Krishna alone can deliver us. Krishna went through the same experience. If it is apparent that the spring does bring a meeting with the gopis, then spring which shoots flower arrows is certainly unjust. Who can tolerate this? Radha and Krishna both thought, in the month of Madhava, spring, the constellation Vishaka is worthy of worship for bringing a meeting with Krishna, or it produces love for Krishna. It reveals Yoga Maya in order that the meeting is fulfilled. Krishna produces all happiness and removes all sorrow. Krishna produces all happiness and removes all sorrow. In order to meet Radha, Krishna reveals Yoga Maya. Krishna produces all happiness and removes all sorrow. In order to meet Radha, Krishna reveals Yoga Maya. The agitation of all the women because of separation, which is like a sacrifice for the women, the sweet chirping of birds becomes a mantra uttered to light the fire. A parrot taught by Vrinda came and began speaking in front of Krishna. O hero of Raja, Radha and other gopis in great pain in their agitation are tolerating the heat coming from the moon and drinking poison arising from the wind. Vrinda showed Krishna a message written on the Champaka creeper by Radha. In Vrindavana, you are a Tamala tree and I am a Champaka creeper. Vrinda alone can arrange our meeting since we by ourselves are without motion. No one else can do this. Looking at this message with his eyes repeatedly, Krishna then began contemplating with longing. Oh, I always go to Bhadra and Padma, and today I cannot go to the auspicious Lotus Radha. Oh, I always go to Bhadra and Padma, and today I cannot go to the auspicious Lotus Radha. Though I have obtained the sweet beauty of Shyamala, I have been separated from Radha who has desire for me. Though I have obtained the sweet beauty of Shyamala, from Radha who has desire for me. Though I have obtained the sweet beauty of Shyamala, I have been separated from Radha who has desire for me. Though I have obtained the sweet beauty of Shyamala, I have been separated from Radha who has desire for me. I have been separated from Radha who has desire for me. Though I have conquered a host of moons by my nails, Chandravali, I desire Radha who is similar to Chandravali. Though I have conquered a host of moons by my nails, Chandravali, I desire Radha who is similar to Chandravali. Aha, though this is so, though I have attained skillful Vishaka, I have not attained Radha with Lalita and Vishaka. Therefore, I am very unhappy. Therefore, I am very unhappy. Radha's letter is the height of skillful intelligence. Detached from everything on the full moon night of Vishaka month, Krishna thought, I have become extraordinary by perfect teaching. Entering an unsurpassable forest, he began to play his flute, decreasing the self-control of the gopis by the playful sound of his flute. He agitated Radha and other gopis. Giving them great pain, he attracted them. Radha would also come since she was also a woman. Radha, however, remained for several praharas motionless like a picture. unaware that Krishna was attracting the other gopis. Previously, when the animals were attracted to the flute, the gopis realized this. The gopis then entered Vrindavana, praiseworthy because Krishna had entered it. For the eyes, it was shining like a sapphire. For the skin, it was spread with water droplets from the Yamuna. For the nose, it was fragrant with musk particles. For the skin, it was spread with water droplets from the Yamuna. For the nose, it was fragrant with musk particles. Then the women came from all directions so that to that forest, alone or in groups of 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8. They measured, gazing at that beautiful face from whose flute emanated an attractive spell. Gazing at that beautiful face from whose flute emanated an attractive spell, losing their awareness, they became merged in happiness. Gazing at that beautiful face from whose flute emanated an attractive spell, losing their awareness, they became merged in happiness. Gazing at that beautiful face from whose flute, gazing at that beautiful face from whose flute emanated an attractive spell, losing their awareness, they became merged in happiness. Losing their awareness, they became merged in happiness. They became merged in happiness. Following his command, they hid their shyness arising from directly meeting him and touching his feet remained within his vision. Following his command, they hid their shyness arising from directly meeting him and touching his feet remained within his vision. Following his command, they hid their shyness arising from directly meeting him and touching his feet remained within his vision. Though they did not reveal any affection in front of him, their condition communicated their extraordinary love. The condition communicated their extraordinary love. Though they did not reveal any affection in front of him, their condition communicated their extraordinary love. He gazed at the gopis who stood there. He gazed at the gopis who stood there, revealing their condition to him. He gazed at the gopis who stood there, revealing their condition to him, and for a moment became absorbed. He gazed at the gopis who stood there. He gazed at the gopis who stood there, revealing their condition to him. He gazed at the gopis who stood there, revealing their condition to him, and for a moment became absorbed in their beauty. All the women except Radha, the object of his intention, had gathered in the isolated grove. They did not make any special gestures. Though they did not want to return, he sent them home since he would satisfy them in the future, while indicating respectfully that he supported the him. He explained as follows: by my nature, I play the flute. Because of this, you have gathered here. I think that if other people came here also on hearing the flute, you would not remain. Is conciliation. Leave this place immediately and return to Vraja. Do not mistrust me. Do I not know the affection you have for me? O Prana Sakis, if I do not know your love, at least immediately accept me as the one who can fulfill your desires. Their reaction: their pitiful eyes were not satisfied, and their ears, though hearing, were not satisfied. Their noses, though swooning, were not satisfied. Their minds, though offered to him, were not satisfied. Thus they sang, O lotus-eyed one, the goddess of fortune considers it a festive occasion whenever she touches the soles of your lotus feet. You are very dear to the residents of the forest, and therefore we will also touch those lotus feet. From that time on, we will be unable even to stand in the presence of any other man. From that time on, we will be unable even to stand in the presence of any other man. From that time on, we will be unable to stand in the presence of any other man, for we will have been fully satisfied by you. SB 10:29-36. When Radha remained in difficulty, unconscious for 2 praharas, her friends found all methods to revive her hopeless condition. Her friends found all methods to revive her hopeless condition. Purnamasi came quickly with Vrinda. Understanding her mental anguish, she spoke clearly. If you leave Radha alone in my Tashtad for 1 prahara, I'll make endeavors to revive her. When they all agreed, Radha was brought to the cottage. When they all agreed, Radha was brought to the cottage. Purnamasi, overcome with trembling at Madhumangala, bring Krishna. Overcome with trembling at Madhumangala, bring Krishna. When he arrived, she welcomed him with seat and other items and then scolded him with a slight smile. Let that be. Whatever you have done, let that be. Now please tell us what to do. Krishna spoke with embarrassment. Oh, what has happened? What should we do? Purnamasi said, we are suffering but have no means of reviving her. By the touch of your body, remove her swoon. Krishna said, ooh, her? Madhumangala then spoke, having anger mixed with affection. If the cloud does not know the lightning which resides within it, lightning becomes slightly manifest. But can the lightning hide forever? If Krishna does not recognize Radha who's fickle within because of her attraction to him, she will not reveal herself fully. But can she hide the feelings forever? Smiling sweetly, Purnamasi looking at Madhumangala's face, then looked at Krishna's face. Krishna said, Madhumangala is unsteady because of a disturbance in his life affairs. Let him prattle as much as he likes. The lies of an uncultured fool are mere effort. I should not disobey your order. Please do what is suitable. Vrinda said, Radha is endowed with the essence of all beauty. Vrinda said, Radha is endowed with the essence of all beauty of Gokula's people under its protectors. What is the harm if Radha becomes conscious on experiencing your touch? Oh, Krishna, if you're indifferent to Radha, be indifferent. My heart is hardened. What more can I say to you? Thinking a moment, she spoke again. Radha surpasses Lakshmi in beauty. If you reject her, you are a person who has Lakshmi on his chest. Being gentle, we cannot obstruct the meeting between you and Radha. Krishna remained silent. Purnamasi said, oh, life of the people of Vraja, you are silent. Why do you not accept my words? Krishna said, I'm silent because I will be afflicted with adharma. Purnamasi said, I know everything. I have accepted adharma, but you should have increased dharma. Krishna said, please advise something other than touching her. Vrinda said, show yourself to her. You are endowed with all good qualities. By showing yourself, our actions are complete. Why should we pray for anything else? Krishna began to think, oh beloved, because I disrespect you, my body, senses, mind, intelligence, and prana have all become useless. Krishna thought about Radha in this way. Though full of longing, he remained silent externally. Madhumangala took his hand and led him to a bower in the cottage. Madhumangala took his hand and led him to a bower in the cottage. He placed Vrinda there and went outside. He had Purnamasi go elsewhere. He placed Vrinda there and went outside. He had Purnamasi go elsewhere. He placed Vrinda there and went outside. He had Purnamasi go elsewhere. He looked at the events from nearby as an instructor while remaining motionless. Vrinda said, oh Krishna, show your beautiful face. The moon mistakes your face for a second moon. The mirror thinks your face is a second mirror, receiving its reflection. Lakshmi becomes bewildered, thinking your face is more beautiful than ours. His hair stood on end and tears came to his eyes continually. He looked at her face. The Sakhis sing of this even today. Radha, having come to a solitary place, was resting on a bed of new shoots to gain relief from a fire of separation. Krishna looked at Radha, who had become pale because of the sound of his flute. Tears streamed constantly from his face. She made his moonstone face liquid by the sweet beauty of her face. Worship that body filled with the fire of separation, whose heart is centered on you. That body appears like the external reflection of his heart. The body is affected by Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. The wise offer Kunkuma to that body as a remedy. Seeing the Kunkuma, Krishna considered that her internal love had surfaced externally. Seeing her, he managed bhavas and transformations in his heart. Though he applied the remedy, he considered that was only a semblance of Radha. He was thinking that a clumsy magician nearby testing his emotions for Radha had produced a false form. But desiring her, he then thought that the false form was actually Radha. Then full of anxiety because of grief, he responded to Vrinda's request. Out of grief for Radha, he accepted Vrinda's contrived request to see Radha, who in her heart held his lotus feet, the cause of her life. Seeing the unavoidable symptoms in Krishna and Radha, she prayed for the desired goal. O Prince of Rajas, she has the highest prema for you. O Krishna, Radha, the form of rasa, exists during the period of your youth. Intuiting your desire for enjoyment filled with grief and accepting your grief, she constantly gives up her own happiness. Knowing this, you play the flute for her. Please hear with attention. In a choked voice, Krishna said, "What should I do?" Vrinda said, "Put your hand on her heart." Krishna said, "That's most improper." Vrinda said, "Then put your feet on her heart." Krishna remained silent. Vrinda fell at his feet. "Oh, do not delay. In great grief, a hand by force and placed it on Radha's heart. Trembling to the extreme, he placed his lotus foot on her heart. He placed his lotus foot on her heart and lost his self-control. Opening her eyes on being touched by a portion of his foot, as if touched by the leaf of a life-restoring plant, she saw Krishna. At that time, the eyes of Radha and Krishna reflected the image of each other. Because of the beauty, their greed increased. They both desired to exchange eyes to relish the other's beauty. Because of the beauty, their greed increased. They both desired to exchange eyes to relish the other's beauty. Krishna became shy in front of Vrinda. Covering his hand with a cloth, he quickly exited, offered respects to Purnamasi and departed. However, he stumbled as he walked. Taking support of Madhumangala with joking gestures, he met his friends. As if having seen a dream with no control, rather and softly, inaudibly crying, as if having seen a dream with no control, Radha got up and began softly, inaudibly crying. As if having seen a dream with no control, Radha got up and began softly, inaudibly crying. When Vrinda carefully consoled her, she slightly recovered and offered respects to Purnamasi. That afternoon, after Krishna had come and seen her, she returned to Vraja with her friends and Vrinda, and somehow passed some time. This mutual touching was for the purpose of merely touching, not enjoyment. For once having experienced that happiness, how could Radha stop or increase grief when separated for a moment from that happiness? For once having experienced that happiness, how could Radha stop or increase grief when separated for a moment from that happiness? She kept that happiness within herself. She kept their happiness within herself, not telling others. Which poet can even slightly describe the joyful condition of Radha and Krishna when they met? The Pulinda women spread the kunkuma that fell from Radha and Krishna on their bodies. When the Pulinda women decorated themselves with the kunkuma on the grass from Krishna's lotus feet, these fortunate persons are described as follows to show their amazing realization. The Aborigine women of the Vrindavana area become disturbed by lust when they see the grass marked with reddish kunkuma powder, endowed with the color of Krishna's lotus feet. Endowed with the color of Krishna's lotus feet. This powder originally decorated the breasts of his beloveds, and when the Aborigine women smear it on their faces and breasts, they feel fully satisfied and give up all their anxiety. SB 10:21:17. That is indicated here also. Enough of speaking about dearest Radha, the kunkuma from whose breast became most attractive when it stained the grass, since it had also directly touched Krishna's feet. The good fortune of the Pulinda women who achieved success from the bliss of smearing on their limbs that kunkuma is far beyond our fortune. The speaker then concluded, "O Radha, you have obtained a lover who previously expressed many desires to attain you, while shaking with agitation like a moving chariot." Hare Krishna. So much for patiently listening. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. I would end here and continue tomorrow.